All right, here with Morgan Hughes. Hey, Morgan.
Hello, Pete. How are you?
Very good. So talk about, this book really captures the whole story, that journey of, I'd say journey from October 16th, 2017 to October 12th, 2018, primarily. And that's a year of your life, right?
Yeah.
Talk about what that year was like. And then as you look back now, 2 years later, roughly, how do you feel about it?
I, I can't believe that it's almost been 3 years since this whole thing kicked off. 3 years.
Yeah.
Like
Seems like yesterday, right?
it does, and it doesn't. Since time is not a real thing during COVID-19. But I think about where we were 3 years ago as a fan base, as a community. We had no idea. Late August 3 years ago, we didn't know what was coming in less than 2 months. We were still a team owned by Anthony Precourt, playing at Monterey Stadium, and as far as we knew, that was going to be the rest of our lives as fans. And then 2 months later, everything changed, and then you fast forward 3 years to now. We're a saved team. We got rid of Anthony Precourt. We got rid of Dave Greeley. We beat the big bad institutions that were trying to destroy us. We have new and wonderful, engaged local ownership, and we're less than a year away from the opening of a brand new downtown stadium. It's insane. It's insane to think about where we are now.
It couldn't have gone any better, right? I mean,
I like to say that how this thing turned out, people are like, oh, it turned out, it's like a dream, man. I'm like, it's not a dream, it's the dream.
Yeah.
This was the dream. Playing downtown alone, it was the dream. I mean, I drove past that on 670. I drove past that plot of land where the new stadium is being built countless hundreds of times in my life. And every single time I looked at it, I thought, I wish the Crew had a stadium there. It was the dream. It wasn't a dream. It was the dream. And now we're there. It's remarkable.
Yeah. I mean, it could you have, I know you had, after you got over your initial anger and grief, which didn't last, well, your anger may have lasted long, but you quickly turned that into a resolve that we are going to save this team. I mean, within days, right? I mean, you were there. You were like, failure is not an option. We are going to save this team. Or I think you said, or you're going to die trying. And
18 hours.
18 hours. You were already there. And now with everything you just said, I mean, could you even if you thought, okay, we're going to save this team, I really believe we are. Could you have even imagined that the outcome would have been this sweet?
No, I don't think that. I knew that we'd save the Crew. I didn't know what that looked like. And I think that was one of our strengths, because if we came out of the gates and said, we want to keep Anthony Precourt in town, or we want to build a stadium on the Abbott Food site, or this, that, or the other, if we defined what the success criteria was with more detail, other than just saying we're saving the Crew, we'd be locking ourselves into a reality that probably wasn't going to materialize. So, I didn't know what I didn't know. I knew we'd save the Crew. I just didn't know what it would look like. And however that path would wind, we were all committed to following it until it was over.
At the time, you didn't know who Alex Fisher was. You didn't know who Doug Kreidler was. You didn't know, you knew who Dr. Pete was. You didn't know the Haslams. I mean, you had no idea how this was ultimately going to be brought together. You must have had some sense of faith in the community that we're going to do our part. I'm Morgan, I'm going to do my part, and we've got this band of cats coming together. But you're counting on the community to, whoever that might be, maybe it's going to be the mayor, you're counting on the community to come through. I mean, you had to have that happen.
Yep.
And it did, right?
So yes, obviously, yes, we had to have people step up. I think that we all looked at it. All of us at Save the Crew looked at it as our job to make sure that those people stayed invested, that they stayed attentive. And I mean, with every movement, I mean, with anything, that's the big challenge. You know, it's not, you know, grabbing your right to vote and making it law is not about really even doing that. It's about getting people invested and holding those that have the ability to make that change accountable, and keeping the attention and keeping the focus until you eventually reach your target. That's what Save the Crew was. We were never, ever a group of people that were going to go, okay, how much money you got? All right, how much money you got? Everyone put their money in, let's buy a team. It was unrealistic. So I've actually seen that argument on Twitter since the team was saved. You know, Save the Crew didn't really save the team. It was the Edwards and the Haslam's. Like, well, yeah, no shit. Like, you know, we were never going to be a group of fans that bought the team. That even if we had the money, they wouldn't have allowed it. Our job was to make sure that those that had the capability to save this community paid attention, identified it as a situation that would be beneficial on both sides, and then made that investment. And that was our goal from day one. And I think that we were extremely we accomplished our goal. We were successful. We were extremely successful in that.
Yeah, what you're saying, I mean, right away when you made those speeches to city council, for example, I mean, you were talking about holding the leaders accountable. You were talking about, you know, basically look in the mirror and ask yourself, what's your legacy going to be? I mean, you came right out of the gate setting that tone.
Yep. I meant it. Those were easy speeches to give. You know, looking back on it, you can assign some sort of grand value to it because, you know, it was kind of a line in the sand, or me holding a mirror up to someone's face and going, what do you see? What do you want to see? But at the time, that was my heart being poured out onto a piece of paper and just reading those words. So it was easy. I meant it.
Yeah.
I always try to be someone whose walk and talk lines up. Because when you're doing that, when your walk and your talk lines up, you're at your most dangerous. And
most vulnerable.
Yeah, most vulnerable. But like, you know, what do you want to be an old man sitting in some retirement home with soft hands, living to be 105 that never did anything? Not me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that vulnerability for a second, because one of the, I start the epilogue with what I think is a great quote from you, one of my favorite quotes. You say, sometimes I think about athletes who call the shots, said Morgan Hughes, Joe Namath, Babe Ruth, Larry Bird. But then there's a pitch, a shot, a game, and it's over in a matter of seconds or hours. When you call your shot and then you have to fight for a year, it's a goddamn grind. When people call their shots and miss, people forget it. But doing it for a year, it's not going to be forgotten. So, I mean, you knew that inherently. You may not have thought about that through the process, but was that something, looking back on it, it was like, damn, what if I know it's hard to, I know what your response always is when I say, what if you wouldn't have saved the team?
Yeah.
But, you know, you would have been calling this shot for a year, and there was no absolute guarantee. I mean, let's face it.
Pete, it was absolutely something I thought about every day, every single day. I mean, every hour of every day, I would think about this because like I said, we got up in front of thousands of people in person and, you know, millions more through the process. I mean, hundreds of millions more, and told the world that we were going to save the crew. And we said it for a year straight. And I'm telling you, man, it would be the only thing anyone ever remembered.
So were there moments when you thought, knowing that sense of vulnerability, where you would get up in front of millions basically, and then you know what you're saying, maybe not promising, and then you'd say like, oh shit, man, we better as hell find a way to save this team. I mean, or just
Yes, every time I said anything, you know, like I just said, man, I want my walk and my talk to line up. I think everyone does deep down. So yeah, when we said we're going to save the crew for the millionth time, when we said tell everyone you know for the billionth time, everything, I mean, your whole being is enveloped in this. I just wrote a check that I hope someone else cashes, you know? Yeah, it was, I mean, yes, I thought about it every day. I mean,
That
you know,
reminds
like
me.
when you get into a game-winning situation, you know, I hate to use sports analogies, but this is a sports book, so whatever. When you get into a game-winning situation, when you have that shot, you know, like, you know, things fall on Earth based upon, you know, 1.5792. You know, there's only a couple seconds until the outcome is going to be figured out. We had a year. And also, we didn't know that it was going to be a year. It could have been 5 years. It could have been 5 minutes. When you live in that perpetual spiral of not knowing, it's easy to let it take you down, man. But again, our biggest goal, our most gigantic responsibility was keeping focus, keeping attention, and keeping our fight in the public view. So on some level, it was extremely difficult, but like, that's what you sign up for.
So now sitting here looking back, and what's the first wave of emotion that comes over you when you think about what you did?
Just gratitude, and pride, and you know, and respect. Gratitude for all of the people that believed in the cause, that amplified our message, that bought into our game plan, and that saw it through to the end, man. Pride that we were the first, city that did something like this. That's not insignificant. It's one of those things, man, where you kind of, the universe knew that you were there. There was energy was put out. This thing reverberated because of what you and your friends did. And just, I mean, like, do you know, like, you know, because you wrote the book, and whomever reads this book will hopefully understand it. The amount of talent on the Save the Crew team, and in the hundreds of people who were Save the Crew volunteers, there was nothing we couldn't get done. There was nothing that we said we were going to do and didn't do. There was nothing that was out of our reach. We had the best people in the best spots at the best time to have them there. And to be a part of that was, it was nuts.
Yep. You said at one point in the when we many of our discussions, you said you want the universe to know you existed, and the universe knows you existed, and the universe knows the whole team, Save the Crew team, existed. So well done.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Morgan. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Pete.
Cheers.